There we go. Okay, I want to call the meeting to order. I just want to confirm with staff that the Kansas Open Meeting Act required notice has been provided.
Yes, I can confirm the packet was posted and the required notice was provided.
Let's do roll call.
All right, I will take roll. Board Member Cates.
Present.
Board Member Herman.
Present.
Board Member Nelson.
Present.
Board Member Freeland. And Chair Manley. So with 3 out of 5 members, we have a quorum and we can proceed with business.
I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 12th, 2025.
I move we approve the minutes from June 12th.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. On to new business. I will let the staff go over our new business.
Awesome. Okay. So our application today is Certificate of Compatibility 25-15, filed by Brian Clennon on behalf of the City of Salina Engineering Division, requesting approval of a Certificate of Compatibility to allow improvements to be made to the Temple parking lot. These improvements include resurfacing, installation of planter boxes, and installation of new light poles, along with other improvements that we'll cover in the staff report. And the address for this property is 336 South Santa Fe Avenue. So the applicant in this case, the City of Salina, submitted a Certificate of Compatibility application to the Community and Development Services Department on July 10th. Through the use of funds accumulated through the Downtown Salina Star Bond District, the City of Salina is proposing to redesign and reconstruct the parking lot for the temple. As part of the proposal, the existing parking lot will be resurfaced. Concrete planter islands will be installed along Santa Fe Avenue and 7th Street. 6 new light poles will be installed throughout the parking lot, and new pavement markings will be applied. Additionally, the concrete entrances to the parking lot will be narrowed to provide adequate depth for adjacent parking stalls. The sidewalk will be replaced along the Santa Fe frontage of the parking lot, and new curb and gutter will be installed along the Santa Fe Avenue and 7th Street frontages. The parking lot is 250 feet in depth, east to west, and 160 feet in length, north to south, along South 7th Street and South Santa Fe Avenue. The lot is bordered on the north by Sonic Drive-In, bordered to the east by South Santa Fe, to the west by 7th Street, and to the south by the Temple Building. As currently constructed, the existing parking lot has 108 regular off-street spaces with 4 ADA parking spaces for a total of 112 off-street parking spaces. The parking lot does not currently have any exterior lighting or landscape buffers. And the parking lot has 3 one-way drive aisles that circulate onto Santa Fe Avenue and 7th Street. The proposed parking lot improvements would have 100 off-street parking spaces with 4 ADA spaces for a total of 104 off-street parking spaces. The stalls would be oriented at a 45-degree angle and would retain the one-way drive aisles of the existing lot. The proposal includes the installation of 6 overhead parking lights spaced throughout the lot, and you can see those indicated as the circles that Dustin is pointing to. Those would be similar to what exists in the current public city lots. And the proposal also includes the installation of 12 landscape island buffers located along the 7th Street and Santa Fe frontages. And then on the screen here, you can find the planting plan. You can also find that in your packet. The city forester, along with the engineering department, worked to provide landscaping, to provide a planting plan for the proposed island buffers. Because this property is located within the Business Improvement District, review and approval of the proposed parking lot is required by the Design Review Board before a zoning certificate can be issued for the proposed parking lot reconstruction. A public hearing was scheduled before the Design Review Board to request this to review this request for conformance with the design guidelines for downtown Salina. So the design guidelines make the following recommendations in regard to streetscape and parking facilities. 1, to minimize the visual impacts of parking lots. The addition of landscape buffers can enhance the view of the parking lot from the street. And so you'll be met with trees and plantings along the frontages instead of just the concrete parking lot. 2nd, to provide a well-lit and convenient pedestrian access to all parking facilities. The submitted parking lot layout appears to take into account safe access to the parking lots with the addition of 6 overhead lights. And then where a parking facility abuts a public sidewalk, provide a buffer. Again, the parking lot indicates plantings and buffers along 7th Street in South Santa Fe. So next we'll do a review of the zoning ordinance requirements for parking lots. So the parking spaces must be a minimum size of 8.5 feet by 19 feet, which they are. The aisle width, each parking space must have direct access to a driving aisle, having a width in accordance with the angle of parking. That would be a 12-foot drive aisle, which the proposed parking lot has 12-foot drive aisle widths. For parking lots having 76 to 100 spaces, at least 4 ADA accessible spaces are required. This proposal has 4 ADA spaces proposed. The minimum width for a driveway limited to one-way traffic is 10 feet. The proposed driveways are 12 feet in width. A 5-foot buffer is required between a parking lot and a public street, and also between the lot and any adjacent residential properties. This property does not abut any residential properties. However, it does abut 2 public streets, and there is proposed landscape buffering both frontages. The one thing we will talk about in a little more detail is landscaping. So in accordance with section 4265, which is the landscape regulations, parking lots containing more than 50 spaces shall be landscaped with islands equal to 5% of the total paved area. Such islands should be in addition to the other landscaped area requirements. However, the following exemptions exist for properties that were constructed prior to the adoption of the landscape regulations in 1994. And those would be the expansion or redevelopment of a site utilizing all or parts of an existing building shall not be required to meet the landscaping requirements of this section except as follows. When the value of renovation or reconstruction exceeds 50% of the appraised value, or when there is a more than 30% increase in the gross floor area of existing buildings on this site. And this parking lot improvement does not meet either one of those exceptions. Therefore, the Temple parking lot would be a pre-existing non-conforming parking lot, and any effort to install landscape buffers along the street frontages is voluntary, and they are not required to have the landscape islands throughout the lot. The proposed parking lot improvements also meet the following zoning requirements: screening, trees and shrubbery, and signage. Parking lot signs should be signed with entrance only and exit only signs where appropriate. So surface parking lots are a permitted use in the C3 district. The proposed redesign and reconstruction of the existing parking lot would be consistent with neighboring parking lots that provide parking for business uses within the downtown. The parking lot layout plan that has been submitted with the application shows that the redesigned lot can accommodate 100 off-street parking spaces, 4 of which would be handicapped accessible spaces. Access to the parking lot will be from South 7th and South Santa Fe, and the parking lot layout maintains the existing circulation pattern. The proposed parking lot layout will include the installation of 12 parking lot island landscape buffers along the frontages. So while the design guidelines contain recommendations regarding parking lot location and design, the Design Review Board does not have the authority to approve a parking lot design that does not meet the minimum standards of the zoning ordinance in regard to parking layout and landscaping. Planning staff has determined that the proposed parking lot will comply with the parking requirements of the zoning ordinance, with the exception of the parking lot landscape regulations. However, the proposed redesign of the parking lot does not meet the criteria needed to trigger the landscape regulations to be required, and therefore may continue as pre-existing non-conforming. So with that being said, it appears to staff that the following findings can be made to support approval of the proposed exterior modifications. 1, the provision of a landscape buffer along South 7th and South Santa Fe Avenue sidewalks will enhance the streetscape and reduce the visual impact of the proposed parking lot from the street. The proposed parking lot design will minimize disruption to the visual continuity of the street. Proposed parking lot design retains the bulk of the existing parking stalls while providing a visual buffer from the right-of-way. The installation of light poles will increase the pedestrian safety to the parking lot, and the proposed parking lot design conforms with the downtown design guidelines and Salina zoning ordinance. So with that, the design review board would appear to have the following options in consideration of the application. You could 1, approve the application for the proposed parking lot based upon the suggested findings. 2, you could approve the proposed parking lot subject to any conditions identified and approved by a majority of the design review board members. 3, you could postpone consideration to acquire additional information. Or 4, you could deny the application as presented upon making findings that would support the denial of the proposed project. Staff has determined that the parking lot layout meets the city's dimensional standards for parking lots and would recommend approval, subject to the condition that if there are any significant changes to the project as approved, Development Services staff will be notified to determine whether additional review by staff or the board will be required. And with that, staff's available for any questions. Brian is here on behalf of engineering and the project, and that's it.
Is there any public comment, either online or anybody? Okay. Bring it back to the board. Do you have any questions of staff or Brian? Okay, so no comments. So with that said, I'll entertain a motion.
I would move that we go with to approve the proposed parking lot based on the staff suggestions, barring any significant changes to the project.
What, option 1?
Option 2.
Option 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will second.
We have a motion and seconded, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Is there any new business?
We do not have any new business for you today. And there is the potential that we will have a application for our next meeting, but staff is still working with the applicant on some details. So we will let you know if there is a meeting.
Okay. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I second.
Meeting is adjourned.